What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. I am so excited to be here. You know why I woke up today? And when you wake up, you're alive. So I am really grateful for that. I am grateful for amazing humans and amazing conversations. And I'm really grateful for all of you. So make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and all that, because this community is amazing. It's a bunch of straight talkers, and I love the way it is. And all of you guys are always like texting and emailing and following my guest and all of that great stuff. And I love building community. That's super important to me. And so, as you know, I go around this amazing freaking planet of ours trying to find the best humans that I can find to come on here to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. So today I am thrilled to have Dana Shamas with me. And I hope I said that right. So
Perfect.
good. From overcoming family challenges and mastering yoga, Dana has turned her life's hurdles into stepping stones. She has an MBA in UC in Berkeley under her belt, and she is, she's in socially conscious entrepreneurship, which I can't wait to get into that and see what that's all about. So she's not just a coach, though; she's a guide to experiencing a fuller and richer life. And through yoga and breath work and biofield tuning, she helps people cut through life's noise and to find their authentic selves. And I love that, Dana. I love all of that. So we're going to get into all of it. All right. So before I get all into your business, I do want to talk about who you are, though. I want to get to know you a little better. So I always start the show with, who are you? So who are you, Dana?
Gosh, such a little question for such a big answer, I feel like.
So true.
Well, professionally, I'm an executive wellness and leadership coach. And so I really support people stepping into fuller, more authentic versions of themselves so that they can lead. And mostly for me, it's about tapping into your intuition and your inner knowing.
Mm.
And I do that because that's really the journey that I've been on, is really letting go of kind of all the constructs and teachings and the way things should be and the way things should be done, so that I can really listen and follow what I am meant and designed to do. And so for me, that looks a lot like listening to the earth, listening to nature, listening to my inner knowing, and connecting the unseen world with the seen world so that we can walk forward in life in a different way. And because I have a business background, because I have an MBA, I'm really able to bring that to leaders in business. So people who are entrepreneurs, people who are in the corporate world, who know they're meant to make change and designed to make change, but really need support into tapping into that part of themselves that they need to trust more and listen to more so that they can lead in the way that they're meant and designed to, versus the way that the rest of the world tells you should, or maybe the way people have done in the past, or models that have worked for things in the past. We're every day, the world is changing in such massive and dramatic ways that really tapping into what's true and unchanging in you is how we're going to find the best path forward.
Yeah. I mean, all of that. So we're going to touch into that because I believe that as well. And it's something that, a journey I've been going on as well. Well, I don't know. Do you believe in God? I don't know
I
if you
do.
believe in God. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So I believe in God, right? And I have realized that, like the last maybe few months of my life, I've been in this weird space, kind of like what you were just mentioning, that, we listen too much to the world. We start kind of adapting these ideas and getting like really narrow minded, like with, structure and stuff. And structure is important, but so is that intuition. So is that spirituality. So is that connection. I've been in the director field for many, many years. I've owned companies, all of that. So you kind of have to do this, right? You have to do this work, Dana. So I want to talk about your journey. What was that for you, though? Because for me, it was complete burnout, right? It was that meltdown of like, I'm actually becoming physically ill, right, from the stress. So what was that for you? What made you realize that you can connect your spirituality and what you want to do and your intuition and what's in you to business, right? So give me that story.
Well, I mean, that started actually pretty early on for me. I was working in investment banking, and I was around a lot of people who made a lot of money, and
Right.
really more money than I had ever been around in my whole life. And so that was definitely a level of achievement, both for myself and within my family.
Mhm.
But there were a number of things that happened at that same time. My father passed away, 9/11 happened.
Mm.
And I really looked around, and I saw that, the challenge actually wasn't earning money. The challenge was really learning how to be happy and really learning how to live a life of purpose that was fulfilling and happy. And I would say, even to this day, really being truly fulfilled and happy is the quest.
Right.
That is where people struggle. There are a million ways to make money, right? And but that path to happiness, right? Like that's something you have to figure out, right? And your purpose and what you're meant to do and designed to do. And so for me, I realized that, early in my 20s, that I was like, okay, so I could stay on this path, but it's not going to get me to where I need to go. And so I
Mhm.
started following my passion, and I went into international development. I lived in Serbia and Croatia, and it was something that I had studied in college. So I had really wanted to. That was really the field I had desired to go in. If you think about it that way. And even there, right, I was like, well, what am I really passionate about? What do I really
Mhm.
love here? And
Mhm.
it was food and land and connection and health and wellness, right? Like, how do we, and anybody who's ever known me, right, you're going to learn more about food. You're going to learn more about wellness and things that you just never, ever thought all went together.
I love that. I love it.
um, and so I really saw there was this emerging concept that, like, business can do good, right? If we only focus on business as making money, that's the only paradigm, then that is all it does. But at, at the root of it, right? Companies are created to create jobs,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
create social good, and to create money, right? Like, we need all those things for our world to work well. And
Right.
so how can I support that process? And so that's really why I got my MBA, was like, let's learn the rules.
Yeah, yeah.
How
No,
are all
that's
people
really
doing?
good. Talk about like being able to meld two different worldviews, right? Because some people think that oh, if they're too business minded, then they think the work you're doing is too woo woo, right?
Right.
And then if people who are what they call too woo woo think that the other way may be too stiff. I love the fact that two can merge because we are more than one facet, right? And I think we tend to forget that when you're in leadership, right? You're just like, go, go, go. There's things to get done. We got to get this done. And one of the things that I loved about being in leadership was being a servant leader and being a mentor and coaching, right? Because you have to be a good coach, which means you have to be a good listener. You have to have
Mhm.
empathy, all of that. So was that something that you just decided? Did you stay in the corporate world or did you decide to leave it or how does that look?
Yeah, I left the corporate world and I went into international development. So I worked in Serbia and Croatia
Right.
for the government, right, and
Okay.
governmental agencies. And then I worked for entrepreneurs once I went into business school. So I worked
Okay.
mostly with entrepreneurs and small to medium sized companies in the wellness space until I opened my own business.
And how did people receive that, right? Like when you were starting to meld the two together, did you find that it was a harder space to get into or did you find that people were more receptive? How did you find that?
Well, I mean, I went to the most receptive place in the world that I could go, which was Berkeley, California.
Got it. Oh,
Now, when
smart.
I
So
moved back
smart.
home to Houston, I found people were really not receptive.
Okay.
And it was a much bigger challenge. And even today, the concept of an aligned business, I would say, has limited receptivity.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
people just don't. I think a lot of it is that people just don't understand
Don't
how. Like,
understand. Yeah, yeah.
people just do what other people do, right? Or what they've seen before. So um, really this idea that you can have an aligned business that makes money,
Mhm.
um, that takes a level of consciousness and awareness and desire that um, it means you have to go above and beyond, right?
Yeah, and
And
I
go
think the interesting thing is, you'll have people who do the journey individually from the company. Right,
Mhm.
you probably have run into this where you'll speak to like upper level management or something like that, where they believe in it, or they do breath work, or they do yoga, but for some reason there's this resistance of bringing that on to the company, like to the higher, the chief executives, right? And it's very interesting, isn't it? Like, we all have a spirituality in us. We all have this thing
Mhm.
where we need to be connected, whether it's through love or compassion or empathy or all of those things. Yet when we go to business, it's a very masculine type of thinking. It's a very, working, get it done, and let's not get emotions involved. It's so interesting. It's always been so interesting to me, being now that I've left that world and got into the coaching space, like seeing even in my own brain, I don't know if this ever happens to you, Dana, but even in my own brain, I'm getting challenged sometimes with transcending feelings, because it's all about this thing. Do you go
Yes.
through that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, just last week I was in a meeting and I was like, wow, I'm way more emotional than everybody else. And then it took me a while to like pedal
Yeah.
myself back and be like, you know what? That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was there for a reason and it spurred you to something more,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And it came from a place that was really good and it came from a place that was really honorable and it created change,
Right,
right? Like
right.
we need fire to create change,
That's right. That's
And
right. I always
so,
think about that. It's amazing, isn't it? Like
yeah,
it is, I always think about, the story of gold and how gold is made, and the way it has to go into high fire for the impurities to come up to the surface and be pulled out, right? So
right. And so
so
that's
good.
important to remember, right? It's not really about using fire or not using fire. It's how skillful can you be at using fire, right?
Right,
So how
right.
skillful can you be at feeling your emotions, understanding your emotions, and using them to transform into something better and
I love
more?
that. I love that. You know what, Dana? I want you to speak on that a bit. I want you to speak on what that looks like, right? Because I have a lot of freaking awesome people that listen to the show. And I mean, they've boosted my ratings up to like almost the top 1%, to listen to in the country, which I think is phenomenal, right? So these people are phenomenal that are listening. And a lot of them are entrepreneurs, CEOs, like, thought leaders, things like that. So talk to us about that, right? So now you're speaking to your people, right? I
Yeah.
want them to understand this. Like, when you go there, it's not like you're sitting there going, let's go, woo, woo, everybody. Okay, no, it's an alignment thing. And I want you to explain that, right? So let's dive into what that looks like, right? So somebody wants to work with you, Dana, like, what does that look like, and why should they? Like, why should they show up? I want to know about that.
Yeah, they should show up if they want more, right? If they
I
know
love
there's more, they know they can experience more, they can achieve more, they can have a bigger impact. They feel that desire within themselves and just can't figure out why it's not happening.
it.
And so sometimes that looks like you're not being heard in a room, right? Like your voice, like you may say things, but it's not being heard.
Hmm.
You may not have the courage to speak at all. You may doubt yourself or have like self critic or have imposter syndrome or things of that nature. And so what I do is really work with you to figure out, and we do this together, what those hooks are and what those belief structures are. And the speaking one is really a fascinating one because what I find is that when we have a lot of emotional charge when we speak, right? Then we aren't heard because all people hear is the emotion,
Right,
right?
right,
They
right,
don't
right,
actually
right.
hear the words.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
if the emotion triggers them or is, something they can't handle, then it just shuts down, right? But if you can really master your emotions, and by that I don't mean suppress or repress. What I mean is you can feel your emotions. You can resolve what the charge is, like what the trigger is for you, but you still have that power, right? You still
Mhm.
have that energy, but then you can use that energy to put behind your voice and your words instead of the emotion coming before the words.
Mhm.
Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does, and I think, that's one of the things, as you're talking, I'm, like, picturing, the fact that I'm well, let me back up. I think the emotional thing is so important. Like I've been a director for many, many years, right? So I had a big team up under me of about 20 people. And I just remember exactly what you're saying. There was some people who knew how to show up, like they had emotional intelligence, right? So they knew how to show up. Even if they were upset about something, they did it in a strategic way. And then you knew who was going to have a complete meltdown, right? And you're right. When you're in that space where you are emotionally charged, whether it's anger or sadness or nervousness or frustration or whatever that is, and you haven't mastered, pulling back for a second and recognizing you're going through that and that it's okay to go through that, but it's
Mhm.
also your responsibility to show up a certain way, right? If you want to be heard.
Well, it's no, I think it's your responsibility to show up authentically,
Right.
right? And so it's about how you handle that emotion. You have responsibility for your own emotion,
Right.
right? Like you are having anger. That's not about somebody else. That's actually about you.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
how do you own that yourself?
Mhm.
Right? Like how do you be like, okay, this is what this is for me and this is what that means, and okay, this means I need to take this kind of
I
action.
love that.
And
Yeah.
so now in this situation, I have resolved the trigger for why I'm angry, and I am still passionate about this situation, and I'm going to speak on it. Right?
Right.
But
Right.
now I'm not angry and throwing my anger at you, right? Or whoever is across from you. Like
Right.
my anger isn't being projected into the situation, right? I've not suppressed my anger, right? I haven't packed it away, but
Mhm.
I have processed it and worked through it for myself. So now I can be fully present for you.
And that's mastery, right? That's a mastery. That's mastery level because sometimes it takes you a couple of times to to kind of
Years.
express your fury, right? Before you realize that maybe I shouldn't be doing it this way. And that's really patience, mastery, loving yourself through it too, and realizing that you're not judging yourself. You have
That's
anger, you have
key.
anger. Right. Right.
That is key. Loving yourself through it, right?
Right. Right.
Loving yourself through it. Like
We're
there's
so
nothing wrong
critical
with
of
having
ourselves.
emotion,
Exactly. Well, I
you
mean,
know.
we're our worst critics. We always are our worst critics, and to the point sometimes that we don't recognize the power that we have to
Yeah.
control all of that, and and that we can show up authentically and still be heard. I love that. So, does that look like if somebody's listening right now and they're like, "Well, I know I can probably use this." Do you work with teams? Do you work with individuals? How do you work that?
Mostly I work with individuals, but I'm really open to working with teams if there's a
Okay.
team that wants to elevate, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I do group coaching as well.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So does that look like you're working with someone, as a couple of weeks, a one-off? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, so usually we need at least a handful of weeks together because as you said, it's a mastery process.
That's
So
right.
usually this kind of work, once will give you an aha of like, oh, you've opened the door.
Yep.
Then you need several weeks to really learn the tools and start to master it,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And then see where that progression is.
So tell me, or give me an example of someone that you've worked with that you just saw, um, a really big shift in their life, like, and that you saw it also, affect their business or their work. I'd love to hear a story like that.
Yeah, I look, there are so many. But
That's good.
what's really interesting is that it's both and, right? Like for me, never is it just their business or just their personal life. Typically, if we work on one, it's going to show up in the
Yeah,
other,
100%.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I definitely have had a client who's worked on their relationship with themselves and their family of origin, um, to let go of some of the anger and some of the resentment and kind of the hooks that families can have on you
Mhm,
and have
mhm.
emotional reactions and triggers from it. And it actually transformed her entire relationships at work, and she
That's
actually got
awesome.
another job that was
Mhm.
a better job, better paying, more in line with what she wanted to do. So it's that kind of stuff that's really
And
fun.
yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say that. Isn't that like the best, right? When you are working with
Yes.
someone and then you see the transformation, but you also see the ripple effect, right? The I mean,
Yes.
it is so beautiful, and I think that's why we got into coaching, right? Just to really see people transform their lives. I love the space that you're in too, because I think it's a space that is not saturated and people really need this, right? So it's interesting to me sometimes, like how someone who has her MBA and all this kind of stuff, like gets into this aspect, this world of it, as opposed to helping people with business plans or, financial projections or, like all the fun stuff we learn in school.
Yeah, I mean, I can do all of that, but this
Right.
is the stuff that's hard.
Right, 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 right. Well, this is a tapping in, right? This is a literally tapping in with yourself and saying, I matter, I'm here, and what I bring to the table is worth it. And I speak to a lot of like CEOs or CFOs and stuff like that, and it's they're human. And it's so fascinating to me how sometimes it takes them a moment to break that down because they think they have to show up always this way. Right?
Yeah.
Do you get that?
I do. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And the most beautiful thing is when they learn to love themselves
Yeah.
and show up fully for themselves, it gives everybody who's with them permission to do the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what that leads to is an entire team of people who are vibrant, shining,
Mhm.
creative, and innovative.
Mhm.
And that's a beautiful, that's what we need,
Yeah.
right? Like that is what we need in the current moment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's so much heaviness in the world, right? So we do need that. We do need collaboration and connection and community, CCC. And we do need that. We do need that, Dana, because like even what me and you are doing right now, just having a beautiful conversation over how we're impacting the world, right? I think it's just so important for us to pull back sometimes with all of the harshness going on in the world because there's still lives here that need us and that matter and that are feeling lost and are feeling a lot of things. And I had to get through that myself, right? Because these last couple of weeks were very heavy on my heart, just like, and my coach said to me, Neena, you're really taking a lot of this stuff pretty hard. And I said, I am. And I was crying a lot. It was just a bunch of stuff. And she's like, have you paused to say, why are you not transcending that feeling? Why are you feeling it so heavy? What's going on with you? And I'm like, I know this, It's like, but even us, right, Dana? Like I always say this, and I mean this. Every coach needs a coach,
Yeah.
and every therapist needs a therapist, and every doctor needs a doctor, right? I mean, that's just truth.
Yeah.
And I love that you're playing in this space, and because when you start to impact the lives of leaders, right, then they can shift the culture. And it's something that for a long time I found to be stiff, right? Like people were like, this is the culture, this is how it is. You don't like it. Oh, next number. And that has to change. And I think during all the stuff that we've been through in the last few years, they've been forced to change.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to tap into what that means though now, because it's different. Everything looks different now.
Well, and will be more different, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the truth is we're only at the cusp of
Yeah.
that change,
I
right? We're
agree.
like at the lip and we haven't jumped in yet.
Yeah.
Even though for a lot of people it feels like we've jumped in.
Right.
I will tell you we haven't.
Right. Right.
We
Right.
really have a long ways to go.
Yeah.
And so we really need leaders who are willing to be open and willing to be human
Yeah.
and take those things into consideration, because it's going to take all of that for this next level of change to happen easily, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's coming. It will happen, right? We
Yeah.
have a whole generation of people who will not accept less. And so it will happen. It's just a matter of how are we going to help that along, right? Are we going to
Yeah.
support that change,
Yeah.
right? Or are we going to like hold on and make it harder?
Oh, I did. I held on. I was making it hard. I'm like, I'm Generation X. Put on your pants and let's go. And then I was like, okay, Neen, back up because that doesn't work anymore. So I was definitely one of those, Dana. I will raise my hand to that one. But thank God I've done so many years of work because man, I was a tough one. Man, in the beginning, yeah, I
But
needed Dana. I
Generation
needed
X,
Dana
this
Shamas
is
at the beginning.
yeah, this is the job of Generation X,
Yeah,
right? It is
yeah,
the bridge generation, right?
yeah,
How do we link the old to the new? How
yeah,
do we create those pathways? How do we open that up?
yeah.
And, I don't think it's what any of us envisioned that we were going to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, here we are.
Yeah, that's right. Here we are. And I actually, I am enjoying it. I'm learning a lot. I'm trying to be more accepting and open-minded about a lot of different things. There's some things I cannot be, but there's a lot of things that I can be.
Mhm.
And I realize that, there's a lot of growth still happening. And I love that. I mean, I'm in my 50s and I still feel like I'm just growing all the time. And it's a beautiful thing. So for all of these CEOs, CFOs, and owners and small business owners, whatever, whoever's listening, you know what, guys, don't like push this to the side. Like this is real work, and this is the kind of stuff that you can't be running away from forever. It will come up again and again and again because a lot of times I feel this is just me, but I feel like sometimes God allows these things in your life to trigger you so that you can deal and resolve them and kind of like move past that for your next level. And when you sit in it over and over again, you're like that hamster on that wheel. And I feel like the reason that you are the hamster on the wheel is because he's been trying to show you, hey, this is a trigger. Do something about that, right? That's just my opinion, but that's how I feel about that, you know?
Yeah, that's what I know energetically
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Like I can explain it all energetically, but 100% those things are showing you what is
Yeah.
unresolved in your energetic field,
Yep.
right? And it's
Yep.
only showing you so that you can resolve, integrate it, and move to the next level, the
Yeah.
next version of you, the next embodiment, the next aha, the next level of whatever you desire.
Yeah. It's so freeing though, Dana, isn't it?
Mhm.
It is so freeing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I do a lot of work in like, the inner child and shame and all that kind of stuff. And even like the last couple of weeks while I was struggling through some stuff, me and my coach were doing some work together because she does a lot of that too, shadow work and energetic work and all that. And I was like, I still have some victim mentalities here, or I still have like shame going on. What is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, where did this come from? You
Yeah.
know? And I'm just like, okay, it's time to deal with that one. But the cool thing is that once you do, you just start to open yourself up to what you were speaking to earlier, which is finances and blessings and opportunities, and all this stuff starts coming your way because you're no longer blocked.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful work that you're doing. That's why I wanted you on the show. And I'm really glad that you're playing in the space of like leadership and business and all of that. And so before I let you go though, I do want you to give our audience how they can work with you, right? How they can really contact you and talk about what this looks like for them.
So my website's the best way to reach out to me, danashamas.com. And I do one-on-one coaching, group coaching. I'm leading a retreat in Costa Rica in November. And I have a number of online courses. So the easiest way is to just set up a 15-minute call with me, and we can chat about what you're looking for, what you
Yeah.
need. I can tell you a little bit more about me, and we can figure out where we go from there.
Oh my gosh, Costa Rica. That's gonna be so much fun, Dana. Oh my
So much
gosh.
fun.
So much fun. Oh, good luck with that, or blessings with that. That's amazing. I
Thank
can't wait. I
you.
think I'm gonna have to throw one of those retreat things, because my ladies are always saying, "Are we ever gonna just go together somewhere?" And I'm like, maybe I need to I guess eventually I'm gonna have to do that. It's a lot of work though, Dana. I don't know. We'll see.
I love
I
retreats.
bet. I
They are
bet.
almost effortless for me, to be honest. The hardest part is the marketing,
Right,
but
right, right.
everything else is super easy and
Yeah.
really so much fun.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, seriously, for coming on, for talking to my audience, for just being authentically you and sharing your wisdom. And I really appreciate what you do. I appreciate the space that you're in, and I really loved our conversation. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
I'm so glad. Guys, I told you, best humans on the planet. So make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and go on to Dana's website. I'm going to make sure to link all of her information below so that you don't miss anything. Make sure that you follow her. She's an amazing human, and I'm so glad she's here, and I'm glad you're here. Love you guys so much. Make sure you do everything well. Show up for you, because you're freaking worth it. All right? Until next time.